Ready to go? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Policy and Resources meeting on the 2nd of July. To all here in the chamber, and we have two councillors not in the chamber, Councillor Mahan and Councillor Evans. And can I ask the councillors who are online to switch their cameras on, please? Thank you. Right, we'll start off on item 1 with apologies. So we will go to Sinn Féin Party. No. We have none.
Councillor Deacon, Chair, and Councillor Hawks, both on.
And Councillor Nick Phillips. Okay, to sign the minutes of the confidential meeting and the minutes of the P&R meeting of the 12th of June has already been done. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Mahan.
Thank you, Chair. Just to record Councillor Hawks' apologies, and I will only be here for a few short moments. I just want to let you know. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Evans.
Thanks, Chair. It's just a declaration of interest on item 6.1, the corporate plan from the Western Health Trust. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Can you both lower your hands, please? Thank you. We'll go ahead now to item number 4, which is the Chief Executive's Department Report 4.1, and is to consider an update on the Council's Planning Committee protocol.
Thank you, Chair. The report just sets out, it's really a minor amendment and modification to our Planning Committee protocol, and it's just the terminology utilised in relation to the hold provision within the protocol. The changes are detailed in paragraph 2.5 of the report, and members who are on the Planning Committee will have seen that this option is actually being worked now to very good effect. So the recommendation is, Chair, that this amendment is adopted then formally by the Council, and we will update the Planning Committee protocol accordingly.
Okay, Councillor Mahan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's a useful mechanism, and I'm quite happy to propose the recommendation that's set out.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Irvine.
I would echo Councillor Mahan's sentiments. It is, we're starting to use it, so I would second the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Everybody happy with that? Nobody else wants to speak to? Everybody agreed with that? Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to 5 Corporate Service and Governance Directorate reports. And the first one, 5.1, is to consider report on consultations. And I think we're passing over to Louise.
Okay, so thank you, Chair. So the first item for recommendation for approval is that the draft response submitted in relation to the Equality Impact Assessment on the consultation and the Department for Communities' initial budget allocations for 2024-25 is approved. And the key issue in this response is the further reduction in the rate support grant, which is now at 16% of its value that we received in 2015. And it's also recommended that the Council notes the information provided on forthcoming consultations to which we will provide a response. The first one will be in September. The first one will be on cremation regulations. And the second one, which we have referred to the colleagues in the Agriculture Liaison Group, is on call for evidence around biomethane production. And finally, since this report was circulated to members, there have been 3 other consultations which have been announced to which we will be providing a response in September. So the first is around the truth inquiry into mother and baby homes. Secondly, on Good Jobs Employment Bill, which is due for the 30th of September. And thirdly, a review of school uniform policy. So all of those will be brought as responses in September.
Okay, you heard that. Go to the recommendations. Councillor Michael Duff.
Thank you, Chair. On the mother and baby homes consultation, I'd be aware of a locally based group of mothers, and how would we hear their views in the course of a consultation like that? Is the duty on us as councillors to engage with them and hear their views and take their views back to the council? Is that the way it works? For their experiences, their lived experience to be incorporated into such a response? Thank you.
Sorry, well, officers can certainly approach the group that anybody would like to recommend that we do so, and have an appropriate, the appropriate kind of consultation with them, either face to face or written, and feed that into the response.
Okay, so we'll go to the recommendations, and anybody like to propose the recommendations? Councillor Donnelly. Seconder, please. Councillor Coyle. Thank you. Okay, we move on to item 5.2, and that is to consider a report on financial matters.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, thank you. Good evening, members. The report tonight then includes, firstly, the management accounts for the period April and May 2024. So that's this current new financial year 24-25. And also within the subsection of that report is the Treasury Management and Prudential Indicator Outturn Report for 23-24. Also in this, and I'll just go through it in a little bit more detail, is a number of items for noting under section 1.2. So in relation to the management accounts, members, they are supported by an appendix at Appendix 1, and that they have been prepared in line with normal management accounting procedures, and comparing actual expenditure, so that's net expenditure income less, or expenditure less income, against the budgets profiled for that same period. The net operating expenditure, members, amounted to 6.3 million out of a budget profiled of just under 6.6 million, leaving the total cost to be financed, members, of £6,598,406 against a profiled budget of £6,851,303. Members, in relation to the outturn report for 23-24, it's attached also as an appendix. It's pretty technical in nature, but it supports within the report the unaudited statement of accounts and the figures within that. And at section 2.2 of the report, members, just to note that there are no significant or any emerging issues really within that prudential indicator, and it really closes out then the reporting for 23-24 and links back to the reporting through at the estimate stage for 23-24. So we have the unaudited accounts, and this is a key document that supports those, and it looks at the Treasury and prudential indicators for the council, including loans, borrowing, minimum provisions for council spend in relation to the payment of capital costs, and it looks at all of the Treasury management operations of the council during 23-24. And it's really in the same format as the quarterly reports that is presented here to the Policy and Resources Committee during the year. In terms of items for note, member, under section 3, firstly is the unaudited statement of accounts, which very gratefully were signed by Alison as Chief Financial Officer under the regulations on the 20th of June. They have now been submitted to both the Department for Communities and the Northern Ireland Audit Office, and the audit is currently underway. And a full copy of the unaudited statement of accounts is available for yourselves, members, on Minipad. If there's any queries in relation to any detail within the accounts themselves, please feel free to contact Self or Jill. And just noting there as well, members, that we work through the audit and then we'll re-present to yourselves in September to seek approval for those full statement of accounts following the audit and whatever recommendations. So that would also go to the audit panel. The Notification of the audit members is on the council's website, and the link is there within the report itself. And a section 3.1.4 provided a summary of the financial position. And I suppose maybe as I reminded members at last month's meeting, this is the financial position in terms of technical accounting adjustments, some of which are non-cash, etc. But just showing there the assets, the liabilities and the reserves of the council, and that its net worth has increased from 173 million, apologies, to 197. The key elements of that being additions to fixed assets. And then there are a number of different accounting and treatments, and also within that is the recognition of the LUF funding. So that's the significant difference in that. And members just noting valuation of properties, but as we know, the valuation are an accounting adjustment, and any levels of that valuation that might be achieved would only be achievable if the actual asset was disposed of. So it's a paper exercise in its simplest form. Just noting, members, that the financial position is slightly decreased from the surplus that was presented to yourselves in June. We had some further adjustments in relation to landfill provision accounting, prepayments and debtors. So suffice it, the surplus has remained £69,160 as opposed to £163,634. And at 3.1.7, members just noting the overall usable reserves just marginally decreased, and that reserve figure that includes the unapplied capital grants. So we look at that separately because that's specific for the Pacific project in this case, and the majority of that is for the Levelling Up Fund, the £20 million in relation to the Forum project. At 3.2, members is noting the council's allowances return, and that return was emailed to all of yourselves, is now on the council's website, and in line with regulations, members, the Department for Communities have been provided with a link on the council website to that return. And just to note, members, that that return is in compliance with the local government circular LG 2323, which is a direction from the Department for Communities in relation to the payment of allowances to members. And at the bottom of the report, members, is a link to that actual circular. Just two final items then, members, is the prompt payment performance for the council for 23-24. That information is published both by the Department for Communities on a quarterly basis, and there's a requirement for this council to report that as well on its website. And again, the link there, members, there's a lot of links this month to the council website. And just noting a very positive performance in terms of the payment of invoices within 30 days. So the level is 95%. Percentage of invoice paid within 10 working days in 23-24 is 89%. And the average number of days between invoice receipt and payment is 10. So I suppose just well done to our team for continuing to do that. And you'll note the number of invoices paid and the amount of those invoices. And that detail is also included in the statement of accounts. And finally, Louise has already referenced the rate support grant, members, and the reduction for 24-25. And section 3.4 just notes that we have received formal communication from the Department for Communities, which confirms the allocation of 8.4% of any grant to the council, and that this council will receive £262,261, which is £137,739 less than the amount included in the estimates. Members, subject to any queries, the recommendations are detailed at section 9.1 and 9.2 of the report. Thank you.
Councillor Moffatt.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks again, Catherine, for all your hard work there and getting those submitted to us. Disappointing again about the rate support grant ever reducing. It may not be there at all. But I'd like to go ahead and propose the recommendations as set out. Thank you.
Okay, any other speakers? Could have somebody second them recommendations in, please? Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second that. But Catherine, if I could just ask one question briefly. You referenced the Levelling Up Fund, or the Levelling Up allocation. That's the 20 million for the Lakeland Forum. Just a question, how much of that have we spent so far? Thank you.
I'll need to just go back to my records and get the absolute figure, which I can provide to members just after this meeting. But my recollection, I don't have the detail in front of me, is that of the 20 million, we've spent about 1.6 of that in this current financial year. So we don't have a full 20 million sitting as yet to be spent. It's about 1.6 this current year.
Okay, do you want to, oh, you have seconded? Thank you, Mark. Okay, everybody happy with that? We'll move on. The next item is 5.3, and that's to consider report on procurement and tenders, paper D.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this report, members, includes the details of one contract to be awarded. In this case, we have one submission, so it's seeking approval of the committee to award that contract. And then we have also within the report notification of a collaborative tender for the collection and processing of local authority collected curbside recyclables, the extensions of some contract at section 2.2, and seeking approval for tenders to be issued also within that section 2.2. And under matters for noting, members, it's just to note the use of procurement frameworks, both Crown Commercial Services for fleet, and further information then in relation to the development of a high-level programme business case for a Mid-South West Innovation Programme through the Bloom Procurement Services. Subject to any queries, members, the detailed list of recommendations are at section 9.1 and 9.2 of the report.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose the recommendations at 9.1 and 9.2.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, happy to second, but I have a query for Catherine on page 1 with regard to the contract to be awarded for silage wrap. May not have the information to hand. I know it's based on an estimated tonnage, but do we know what the tonnage was last year and the tonnage basically is this year with regard to uptake? Second question in that regard, and I know it's more ES, is the silage wrap basically collected at one location, or is it at Gortrush as well as Dramee? Because I know it's got to be exceedingly expensive, and I note that that's a Scottish firm. So do we have to ship or do they collect?
Thank you. In terms of the day-to-day operation, I wouldn't be able to answer that query, but I know it's in both locations. Then, members, just in relation to this actual contract as well, it would include some commercially sensitive information. But for members, I have uploaded onto Decision Time, and hopefully it's there, of the detail supporting this contract.
That's okay.
Thank you.
All I need to know. Thank you very much.
Okay, everybody happy with that? So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is 5.4, and that's to consider report on the audit panel meeting held on the 3rd of June 24, paper E.
Thank you, Chair. So the report is to consider the minutes of the audit panel meeting, and under the terms of reference for the audit panel for the minutes of the meeting of the 3rd of June are presented to the committee for adoption. So members will note that the audit panel considered a number of items, including the annual governance statement for the council and governance matters, and included in that was the audit of proper arrangements questionnaire, which was submitted to the Northern Ireland Audit Office. The panel considered a report on financial matters for year end 31st of March, the performance improvement update on the council's performance plan for the year ended 31st of March, the risk registers, so both the corporate internal and external risk registers, an update on fraud and raising in concerns matters, and updates on 4 internal audits which had been carried out during the period in terms of policing and community safety partnership, environmental health, capital project planning and delivery, and Mid-South West growth deal. And to note that all those audits had a satisfactory outcome. There was also an update on the internal audit plan provided for this incoming year. There's a second matter for noting in relation to the audit panel in that Councillor Roof will replace Councillor Donnelly as the Alliance Party representative on the audit panel following consideration at the Regeneration Community Committee in June. So the recommendation is that the Council adopts the minutes of the audit panel and notes the update to the audit panel membership.
Okay, let's go first of all, Councillor Green.
Yeah, I'm happy enough to propose the recommendation. Just again, and I think I've raised this before, on the turnout of councillors to the audit panel, I note there those 3 of us turned up at the last audit panel meeting, which I think is the bare minimum for the meeting to go ahead on. As we can see, it's an in-person meeting. We have a large number of people that travels quite a long way to attend. Professional people, independent members. We have the audit office, and I would, I suppose, just ask: is there? Can we get a commitment from the members that are on the audit panel to turn up? Because I can foresee that someday there won't be enough councillors there, and all of these people have to go home, and it would look extremely bad. So I'm just wondering if the people that's on the audit panel can look realistically at their diary and see whether they can commit to the audit panel, and if not, maybe there could be councillors that would have the time. I know it's an awkward time and all, so I'm not making any accusations or anything, but I'm just saying, for the sake of the audit panel and for the council and that maybe it's something we do need to look at and keep a good eye on.
So certainly, Councillor Green, we can contact all the members of the audit panel and seek an assurance that their attendance will be forthcoming. The programme of meetings, as you'll be aware, is set out a year in advance, so the dates of the meetings are known, and certainly we can also check if the programme is suitable for members to attend and go from there.
Okay, can I have a seconder for the recommendations, please? Oh, sorry. Thomas?
Chair, I'm quite happy to second the recommendations. Can I ask, on the back of what Seamus has said, is just reflective of an awful lot of other meetings or delegations sort of that we have very few people attended. Can I just ask that somebody would sort of refresh my memory in what leeway do we have as a council to be able to look at increasing, say, like an executive type idea in a council, or increasing remuneration for councillors to be more full-time councillors that would then be in on a more constant basis? Or is that set out in the wider legislation for NI and that we don't really have any ability to change it? Because I think just what Seamus is saying is, and we've all seen it, that we're in danger and sometimes we can't hardly even get a quorum to proceed on things, And it's not the fault, I hasten to add that I'm not being critical of any members. They have full-time jobs and they have to prioritise those jobs and so forth. But I'm just wondering, is there something that we can be able to do to incentivise those that can have the time?
Chair, I'll maybe just come in on that point. In terms of the latter element, Councillor O'Reilly, so the council has no discretion regarding remuneration. We have to work within the standard scheme that is set by the Department for Communities. There is, as members will be aware, a review of that underway at the moment, and we have input to that process. I don't believe the Department for Communities have advised when that will be concluded, but I think it was expected it should take in around 6 months. So hopefully we will get some feedback on that from within this calendar year. And I know the feedback from across the councils had been very much that the allowances were set at a time, which is now 10 years ago, and that there is now a much greater understanding of the demands and obligations on an elected member. In terms of the first part around the executive function, there is provision, or the executive structure, sorry, there is provision in the legislation for a council to work on such a basis. So that would be in the gift of the council to do so. Normally, it would be agreed at an annual meeting, like typically the annual meeting after the council election, but it could be reviewed at any point, and there is sufficient legislative provision for the decision-making structure to be amended, but not the allowances to tie in with that. Not the allowances, no, so the allowance system would remain the same, irrespective of the decision-making model chosen.
Okay, everybody happy with that then? We'll move on to item 5.5, and that's to consider a report on staff matters, and it's over to Jill again.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So there are two items in the staff matters report. First for decision, and it's an update on the Chair's Christmas reception for staff. And it's proposed that that would take place on the 13th of December. And it would also include the annual staff recognition awards, and it will be an in-person event where award recipients will be invited and also recent retirees from the council. The second item in this report is for noting, and that is the regular, which comes to this committee, the Local Staff, Government Staff Commission, EZIN, so that's the most recent version of that. So the recommendations cover approval for the Christmas reception and the noting of the EZIN.
Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and happy to propose the recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor McElduff.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Just to ask where that event takes place in December. And then secondly, in relation to the Local Government Staff Commission, EZIN, has there been a recent change in the future status of the Local Government Staff Commission? Isn't it expected that it'll go out of business at a date in the future, but that they have been given a stay? Is that a different group or is that the same group? That they've been given a sort of a lengthier period on reflection by the department and the minister?
Yes, that's right. And there was an update response back to a letter that we'd written to the Local Staff Commission at the council meeting last night. So the proposed end date or session date for that commission is 2027. So that's slightly longer than was envisaged, but there was very much within that letter the caveat that it's very much under review and there is potential that it will be extended further or that there could be other options come in place. Yes, so on to your second query, Councillor McElduff, the venue for the staff event is likely to be Enniskillen. We just haven't finalised the arrangements, but it's likely to be Enniskillen.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Thanks, Chair. Just on the prompts me the magazine there that is referenced there, Staff Commission EZIN. Our own, I think I seem to have missed it lately, or just wondering what the sort of in focus in whatever that was. That's one, and the other one that I was looking to get my hands on was the staff calendar that usually comes out, and I just wondered where those two were.
So certainly happy to update on that. So the staff calendar has been issued to all staff, and we get very good feedback on the staff calendar. It's part of our health and wellbeing initiative. So there's key dates within the calendar, but then every month has a particular topic aligned with wellbeing or health and safety. So that's been issued, and certainly we can arrange for copies for all members. In terms of the corporate publications, we're currently in review of those publications, whatever. So the most recent version of those went out, I think, probably about 9-10 months ago. And I suppose we're looking at those from a value for money aspect in terms of the printed publications, the environmental impact, and really the readership, and whether there are better ways to communicate the work that we do to our citizens. So that's currently under review.
Chair, could I push a little and sort of say, since 9-10 months ago, we're reviewing when is our anticipated sort of touchdown for a decision, and I presume we are looking at the possibility of using solely electronic means.
Yes, very much electronic means. So we're looking to conclude that in the autumn time. I suppose one of the important publications that goes out to members and is issued on a monthly basis is the communications update, and you will see within that the scope and the range of external communications which is carried out in terms of, for example, press releases. There's in the region of 20 press releases in a month around all the various events and activities. There's very extensive social media activity across all the social media platforms, and I suppose that's the principal mechanism that we're using in terms of a communications tool to citizens in the region.
Chair, if you allow me just one final comment. The community newsletter that comes out is very, very useful, and the fact that there is a circulation that you can be added to is very useful when you're talking to community groups and different groups and so forth, that they can just be added to that, and it gives them first-hand information about all sorts of things that happen. And I'm just thinking that in this day and age of fast-moving news that comes on different platforms, that I still think there is that room for a sort of a 6-monthly or whatever it is, or quarterly news sheet of some description, just to maybe counter some of the negative stories. And I think unless we are occupying that positive space about the good work that is done by so many people within and around the council, that all you hear is the noise and clatter of negativity. And I think we need to continue to find more positive ways to get that message out there. And I think that would be important to keep pushing. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Everybody's happy with that. Okay, I need a seconder for that. Councillor Irvine, okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 5.6, and that is to consider the report of the Director of Corporate Services and Governance, Paper G.
Thank you, Chair. So there are two items in this report. So the first is for decision, and that is a draft of our annual progress report or return to the Equality Commission in terms of our statutory equality and good relations duties. That's a very comprehensive report. It covers a number of aspects of the work we do in terms of our equality scheme and our action plan, with details updates on our disability action plan, the equality screening that has been carried out in year across the council. So 9 policies have been equality screened. The work of the council in terms of lobbying and responding to consultations that have had an equality or good relations angle, and those have been extensive. The civic receptions that have been held for the various groups across the district. A very detailed up on the very good work and the very positive work from the Council Access and Inclusion Advisory Forum, and in particular this year there has been a number of strong campaigns within that feeds into the return. The large number of projects across all directorates within the council in the areas of access and inclusion in terms of community wellbeing. And finally, the HR support that we have available for staff and the equality screening and the work in that area. Within the report also there's updates on the specific actions in the Equality Action Plan, and importantly the impact that these actions have had, and also the specific updates within the Disability Action Plan. That report has been provided as a draft. The Equality Commission issue a template which hasn't yet come to us and will be submitted over the summer, so there may be a scope for further officer review on that report, and certainly we can take any input. The second then item in the Director's report is an update on the outstanding actions from both the Council meeting, the Special Council meeting and the Policy and Resources Committee for the period from March to May this year in terms of the actions complete, in progress and outstanding, and that's for noting.
Okay. You've heard that recommendations. Can I have a proposer for those? Councillor Michael Duff, seconder, please. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, and that is correspondence. And there's only one item of correspondence, as we're aware, so pass over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you very much, Chair. Members, it's in the other folder and it's from the Western Health and Social Care Trust, and it's just a copy of their corporate plan 2024 to 2027, so for information.
So we're just looking to get a proposal to note that, please. Councillor Coyle and Councillor Irvine, thank you. Now go on to item number 7. And I've only had one person contact me about any urgent and relevant business, and that is Councillor Michael Duff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was contacted today about a matter that was really taken up in the Environmental Services Committee meeting today. So obviously the Environmental Services Committee will have reached their opinion on something, but I just wanted to record a concern from Oma Sendenda's, if I can, or
Sorry.
no, okay, no problem.
I'll bring you back in confidential then,
100%.
Councillor Michael
No
Duff.
problem. That's why I spoke deliberately.
Okay. Okay, now we'll move into confidential. So could I have a proposal? Councillor Irvine, Councillor Donnelly. Thank you. Owner will give us a wave. And we'll wait till the mic's back on again. Okay, we're back on again. So I'll go over to the Chief Executive to sum up what was discussed in confidential.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to note that while in committee, the committee considered the report on confidential staff matters and noted the updates provided.
Okay, can I proposer for that, please? Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and a seconder, Councillor Irvine. We'll now return to Councillor Michael Duff on his item.
Thank you. So I'm in legitimate territory for the open session. No problem. Thank you. There was a recommendation which went before the Environmental Services Committee. I actually don't know the outcome of it, because I'm not a member of the committee, but I was contacted in the afternoon with concerns on the part of Oma St Enda's. Oma St Enda's and Strathroy Harps had this kind of process where they were aiming to establish a legal entity for the management, you could say, of the Strathroy playing pitches. Now, I favour personally the opening up of those pitches, to other clubs as well, but I don't want the baby thrown out with the bathwater. So I wonder, could I ask that there is direct engagement between the council and both parties who have been involved to date in trying to establish, now things move painfully slow, too slow in my opinion, but if we could return to that process of formalising a legal entity as agreed previously, and then, as part of that, it might include the opening up of the pitches for booking by other clubs. So that's essentially the concern that I'm recording.
Chair, if I might comment, and I know Councillor McElduff advised, just he wasn't at the meeting or wasn't aware of the outcome. So the outcome is that the committee has accepted the recommendation as per the report. So procedurally, we will obviously note these comments this evening. When we come to the council meeting at the end of July, when that course of action would be due to be endorsed, what I would suggest is that the minute would be adopted minus that recommendation and essentially allow the proposal that Councillor McElduff has made this evening to come forward. So that would do it. I do know, albeit it has not been for some considerable time, but I would have been involved in discussions on this matter in the past, and I know they have been protracted, but I certainly am aware of very goodwill on both sides. But that just procedurally, I think we can log it here, but that's how we would deal with it if you'd be okay, and I'll certainly feed that back to officers.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of our meeting. I have to say it was a...
Just have a seconder for Councillor McElduff's proposal.
Sorry, a seconder for Councillor McElduff's proposal. Seamus, thank you. That brings us to the end of our meeting, and certainly I think it's the fastest meeting I've ever chaired, but we'll not hack it. So thank you everybody for your attendance, and we will see you all being well in September. So thank you everybody.